link tree for people to be able to join?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the reason we are going live very simply is, I mean, editing and cutting and stuff was too much work. So we thought let's just go live and start talking about whatever we have to talk about. Might as well, try out this format. And I think, uh, in going live, I think it's a lot more direct in some sense that there are genuinely no edits and staying true to like the being blunt sort of philosophy, right? We cannot even edit out a lot of shit that we have edited out in the previous episodes. So I think that was the thought behind going live, right? So this is an experiment. We might just go live in all our future podcasts if this works out well, right? And yeah, so I think
I love the fact there are 0 viewers right now on the screen. Oh, there's actually one. There's one viewer right now, and all of this introduction
hi
was for that one viewer.
hi one viewer. No, but it's gonna stay on the channel after this as well. So this is
Yeah, but when we repost this, it's going to show how many viewers were watching this podcast at this moment in time.
yeah. So we're
It's fine
talking
though. It's fine though. I mean, it's a good start. So let's just
for this one viewer.
yeah, but let's try and entertain this one viewer, okay? So whoever it is, and then maybe eventually as we keep speaking, maybe people start joining, and then later on they can at least look back at the whole video, which is going to be on our YouTube anyways.
Yeah.
So okay, so what are we talking about today? So today's episode was on on future of Bitcoin and the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard divorce situation, feminism, and I think we have some like steamy voice notes from that situation as well that we've been able to find that we'll be showing in this episode. I think I'm quite excited. So should we start off with like Bitcoin in general? I know Devansh, you invested in Bitcoin in 2018, did you?
No, so actually
17, no? Yeah.
2017 May is I think when I started
Yeah.
investing in Bitcoin. And I think sort of, today morning we are discussing like what's interesting, what's happening. And so it's 20th December in India right now, right?
Mm.
And today, in fact, Bitcoin hit 24,000 USD for the first
Yeah.
time ever, right? And I
Mm.
mean, over the past week, essentially, it's been hitting all-time highs every other day.
Mm.
So that's how it's going. So I think that's what sort of triggered wanting to delve deep into what's happening with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general.
Mhm.
There's a lot of controversy around it, whether, especially in India, right, its legal status is still in the gray,
Mhm.
uh, particularly, right, as obviously as legal tender.
Mhm.
But again, what we're going to talk about primarily is Bitcoin from the perspective of an asset, right? An investment asset class, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Is how we look at it and sort of just dive deep into the overall broad first principle thinking around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, right? So
Mm.
not too much of like trading advice or anything, right? I mean, I honestly believe you shouldn't really take trading advice from anyone on the internet, right? You should do your own research based on all of the information that you gather.
Yeah.
So which is why we're not going to tell you to buy or sell or anything, right? Or even price markers. To be very honest, we just want to talk about the overarching concept and where we see sort of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain at that extent going in the future.
Talking of scammers on the internet, I would like to really, really highlight this thing that happened to one of my friends. So someone reached out to them on Instagram and said, if you give me £4,000, then I will invest it, and I will give you £8,000 back within the first month. So my friends, the timing of the situation was that my friends were drunk at that time, so they transferred £4,000 to this guy, and they never heard back from him ever
No, but
again.
what was the guarantee that guy was going to convert it back to 8,000? What was the guarantee?
Exactly, that was the scam, right? That was the whole scam. He said that he's going to trade and invest and everything, and then return 8,000 back. So they said that I need £4,000. So if you transfer, then I will be able to. And these guys are drunk, right? The timing of the
So
situation. The timing of
why
the situation
why
was
would you
such.
transfer 4,000 euros to a random person on the
I
internet?
think, right, Shaurya, I mean, not to be rude, but I think you just have dumb friends in that case. Like, whatever this group was, not in general, but like this specific group, I think it's well established that there are all kinds of Ponzi schemes and Nigerian prince scams on the internet by now.
Shaurya, be
So
fucking honest right now. Were you a part of that 4,000 pound investment?
No, I wasn't, bro. Are you crazy? No, I wasn't. Even if I'm
anyway,
drunk, even if I'm drunk, I will not do like a stupid thing like this. But yeah, I mean, I think whoever it is, they know, and if they're probably watching this, they know that it was a dumb act, but they learned something from it, right? So, but yeah, just putting it out there. So yeah, coming back to our like actual point, right? Which was the whole about Bitcoin. So like a lot of people don't really know what Bitcoin is, right? And they're like, okay, Bitcoin, okay, crypto, like what the fuck is going on? What's the like what is like blockchain? Like how are they all related? So it's like just like in a nutshell, Bitcoin is the digital currency. Crypto is the whole umbrella under which you have the currencies, and blockchain is the underlying technology that really uh, like sort of is like the bone of the whole. It's like the brawn, right? It's like connects the dots together, connects everything together. And there's been a lot of like up and down thoughts about cryptocurrency over the years, right? Like I know initially when like I know initial investors today now, because they invested in Bitcoin, it's such a big thing. And I think even till date, right, no one's really taken credit for creating Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
that's the point. So essentially, right, Satoshi Nakamoto is what's the
That's
common
the
He's
acronym.
the
rumored name,
common
right?
acronym.
That's the common acronym that author
Yeah.
that's the author's name on the original white paper of Bitcoin and blockchain, the underlying
Yeah.
technology. And it's done on purpose, right? It's done on purpose to hide behind that anonymity, so that as a symbol, again, it's straight out of Batman. As a symbol, that person is incorruptible, right? For example, the person who created it, right, post that if it was an actual person, right, there'd be all
Yeah.
kinds of media and everything around that person trying
Mm.
to disenchant that person, because that's one person going against your banks, your federal governments, everything, right? So which
Hmm.
is why it's done on purpose, because as a symbol you're again incorruptible, right?
Hmm.
So that's the underlying thought
That
there.
person basically wanted to be anonymous so that nobody
Exactly.
can target him. That was back in 2010,
2008, actually 2007
2008.
2008 is the time. And there are many theories around it. I don't want to go into conspiracy theories. Some people say it's an organization, so like SA stands for example Sony, and so it's a bunch of 4 to 6 Asian organizations, some people say, right? But that's not really the point, essentially, right?
Yeah.
The point of cryptocurrency, right, as you very rightly said, when we talk about cryptocurrencies, right, it's very simple. What is a currency? A currency is anything that is legally exchangeable as money, right? What is money? Money is simply a store of value slash time, essentially, right? It's
Yeah.
just that. So originally we had the barter system, right? So it was I give you this, you give me that. I give you rice, you give me wheat, for
Yeah.
example, right? That's how we started. And it's as in when we developed collective trust. After
Hmm.
that, what we did is we went to grains. So then grain was actually the first kind of modern money.
Hmm.
So you had standard grains, right? So basically 1 kilo of grain equals X value. You can tell a carpenter to do this work for you and give him, let's say, half a kg of
Hmm.
grain. That being the first sort of money, right? People started trusting, okay, grain is something that will always hold its value. Then it shifted from grain to metal, so gold, silver, whatever, right? It shifted to these coins and metals, right? Which is essentially what we see in our kings and the times of everyone, where coins were printed. So
Yeah.
what happened? People started trusting, okay, this because this metal is rare. And here's a point, right? Not every metal can be a currency. The reason gold and silver were chosen is by definition, right? On the base of physics and scientifically, they'll always be limited, right?
Hmm.
There is only so much gold and only so much silver you can extract, and it's extremely hard. So
Yeah.
because the overall amount is fixed, which is why you can trust it, because no one can create gold out of the blue, which
Yeah.
is exactly the underlying principle of Bitcoin. There is only a fixed amount of Bitcoin that will ever exist, that will ever be mined. After that, you cannot do it. That's how the algorithm is built in. That was the
Okay.
underlying thought behind that.
That's okay. That's the thing, right? So I was watching this. There was this. I was watching a Bloomberg the other day, whilst I was at work, and one of the chief economists of Bloomberg was on the news, and he said, and he mentioned, and I quote him. He said that the whole Bitcoin and everything is a bubble. And the reason he said it's a bubble is because of the exact same thing that you just mentioned, right? You said that okay, there is, because you said 21 million. That's the limit. That's
Hmm.
the amount of bitcoins that you can mine, and we've reached 18.5 million today, right? But
Hmm.
no one really knows what's gonna happen when you reach 21 million, right? I mean, they say it's a limit. 21 million is the limit, and the reason they say it is because the way the algorithm works, right? I think it's called it's the range. The range in a binary system, the range of an integer is up to 21 million.
Yep.
And that is the reason why that is the limit of a Bitcoin, right? But no one really knows what's going to happen when we reach 21 million. Like, can the algorithm be tweaked? Will the algorithm be tweaked? Is it already being done? Will that attention move from Bitcoin to will it run Bitcoin obsolete? If it will run Bitcoin obsolete, then will people run into newer cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or Ripple, and then will their valuation go up? But everything just kind of boils down to uncertainty, right? Which is why they kind of say that, like, people who are actually investing in Bitcoin, a lot of them, believe me when I say this, 80% of the people don't know shit about Bitcoin. They are investing out of news, sentiments.
That's
Plus
actually
FOMO. That's called FOMO. People are investing
fear of
out
missing
of
out.
Yes,
fear of missing out. Yep.
exactly,
But
exactly.
just on a broader point, that's all retail investments, just by the way. It's not just Bitcoin, it's the same with the stock market, right? People are treating it as a get rich quick scheme,
Yep.
right? They're taking, again, random advice from people on the
No,
internet.
that's
Yeah.
what happened back in 2017, end of 2018, when Bitcoin touched 20K.
Hmm.
Because
Mm.
everyone, no matter how small the amount, everyone was putting in money just in the Bitcoin run. They wanted to get a part of this Bitcoin bull run. But
Yeah.
right now, it's a little bit different, not entirely different. But yes, that's what happened in 2018. And that's why the bubble burst so quickly. And Bitcoin was back to like 3,400 or $3,500.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are these rallies, right? Essentially, with any
Yeah.
asset class, it's the same thing with gold and everything. With Bitcoin, the effects are a lot more drastic. In gold, right, to get a 7 to 10% increase, you need to wait like 5 years. In
Mm.
Bitcoin, it can happen in 24 hours. So
Yeah.
it's essentially, it's again that high stakes, high rewards sort of uh thing that's going on. But to your Bloomberg point, right? This brings me to sort of a larger point, right? So I mean, no disrespect, but I think sort of the journalist at Bloomberg, I think, did not do his research completely right, which is again most journalists, because actually, the way the system is built, right? The point of blockchain, right, is it's a distributed ledger, right? So, for example, it's just three people right here, right? If I
Yeah.
have to transact one Bitcoin with X person sitting here, what I need to do is I will essentially broadcast this transaction to each and every one in the network, right?
Mhm.
Each and every holder of Bitcoin, which is 100 million people currently and potentially more. And each and every 100 million of them has a copy of this transaction now, that Devansh has given one Bitcoin to this X person. Now, this can never be changed, right? This can never be changed, which is why the overall Bitcoin can never go beyond 21 million, because what you'll have to do is hack all of the computer systems all around the world all at once and change the cryptographic code in them to sort of do that, right? And breaking those cryptographic algorithms and keys in itself is something that has not been achieved even by the best supercomputers till now, right? So which is again, a complexity that's involved, which is where it's very unlikely that a system can get hacked or anything, right? They've made it impossible from the get-go. And
Mhm.
sort of the 21 million limit, right? What happens is, right now, Bitcoin, there are miners, right? So I transact X Bitcoin. The transaction is processed by a computer with processing power that is mining Bitcoin. So after 21 million, right? The theory is what will happen is that the 21 million, sort of once the 21 million limit is reached,
Mhm.
there will be enough transaction fee within the system, right, per transaction, that these miners will still be incentivized to sort of keep their systems running. And that's what they're doing currently as well. So that's the theory, right? On a theory level, I mean, Bitcoin sounds sort of perfect. Practically what happens is it's going up against your banks, it's going
Yeah.
up against your governments, right? it's
Yeah.
it's essentially saying to people, right, forget the trust you've put in the US Federal Reserve and the US dollar, and the US dollar and all of the other currencies of the world since the last century are backed and pegged to the US dollar. That's how the world is operating. So at some point, what US decided was, okay, US was very smart here. So what decided, they had the dominant military might, they had won the World War II, everything. They were like, okay, they realized that United States does not have too many gold reserves within itself. So now they decided that, okay, you know what, let's forget about gold. We're going to make the American dollar the new gold, that we're going to make American dollar the new gold, and now all other currencies will be pegged to the American dollar. So now the American dollar is the most valuable, and you just have to trust us, the government, that we won't print enough money so that the other currencies go down. But there is nothing stopping the US government from technically doing that,
Yeah.
which is what happened this year, just by the way. So this price rally, coming to this price rally, right? Why did Bitcoin go to 24,000 USD right now? What the US government did this year, right, was a disaster in terms of trying to manage the crisis that was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, out of nowhere, they did a rerun of what they'd done in 2008, which was the financial crisis. Their solution was, okay, our banks are collapsed, everything is gone, right? But apparently Lehman Brothers is too big to fail. Apparently Goldman Sachs is too big to fail. So what we're going to do? We're just going to print money out of the Federal Reserve, nothing to back it, no gold, nothing. We're just going to print $1 trillion and just give it to these banks and push it into the economy. That's what they say. We injected money into the economy.
Mm-hmm.
This year, they have printed $4 trillion. This is news that no one is talking about. This is something that the mass media has chosen to very conveniently ignore. They've printed $4 trillion out of nowhere just because they felt like, okay, we need money to buy vaccines and to fight COVID. So we just printed that money, right? But you can't do that. There is a cost to it, right?
Yeah.
Venezuela tried to do this. Now, in Venezuela, to buy a loaf of bread, you need to take 2 trucks worth of, the Venezuelan currency to buy a piece of bread. That's
So
what Venezuela started
I
doing.
agree. I agree with that argument that that like when you reach that 21 million limit, like there is like your argument is that it will not go up, right? Because
Hmm.
naturally, if you keep pushing the limit, then that means that there is endless supply for and
That
for
is
whatever
that is
demand, right?
corrupted. How is
And
it a currency? Yeah, how is
yes,
it an asset anymore? There is no supply and demand if there is unlimited supply. So
exactly,
that defeats it
exactly.
on a physical level, right? There
Yes,
cannot be no supply and demand if the supply is unlimited, right?
No, but
correct. And
everyone does not know this supply is limited to the point where Shaurya was saying there was a Bloomberg article and a journalist who's claiming that this 21 million limit can be
Yeah,
broken
so
and it's very uncertain.
exactly.
The thing is, because of this reason, not everyone knows it's a distributed ledger and what the
Hmm.
technology lies behind crypto.
yeah,
Everyone has that sort of distrust in crypto, and that's the reason why nobody wants to invest after doing a lot of research, because
yeah.
everybody just wants to fall into FOMO because they don't have the clear picture, and that's why they're doing this. And neither does this $4 trillion thing. Nobody knows this four
Nobody,
trillion
it's
dollar
not
thing,
being talked
but they
about.
believe that the USD is the greatest currency in the world, and they're going to keep trading in USD. But nobody knows actually all of this ground beneath all of these currencies is shaking. But Bitcoin stays solid because of this whole technology underlying beneath it.
Hmm.
I think there's this thing known as the Great Reset, right? And we'll come back to it. It's
Yeah.
becoming very popular. This is something that I really want to talk about as well. And I think that's what's driving the price of Bitcoin right now, right? But I think it's very important that at some point, so the beauty of trading is that okay, even if you know when to get in, right, it's equally important to know when to get out. Okay, and
Hmm.
it's this uncertainty of Bitcoin's whole, which calls it a bubble eventually, is that you need to know when you need to, what is the best price you need to kick yourself out. Because right now, given the current situation, when we are reaching closer to 21 million, which will not be until 2024, uh, at that time, I think you don't know, the price of Bitcoin might just rally up all the way to 50K or even like 60K. Like, we don't know, but what is going to happen after that is the uncertainty. So I think my personal conclusion would be, for all the people who have invested in Bitcoin, first of all, I know the price is a lot, right? So first of all, if you have invested in Bitcoin in the past, then hold on Bitcoin, and then try to research and try to analyze what, according to you, what's your risk tolerance and how much can you risk holding it, and then know when you want to exit and what your return you would want to be on Bitcoin, right? Second thing, I think a lot of people have a problem is that now Bitcoin is very fucking expensive, right? So is it still a good time to be a part of this boom? And if you can't afford a Bitcoin, there are other ways to be a part of this boom, right? So there are equities out there. So when I say equities, I mean companies. So there are companies out there, such as Coinbase, so Coinbase, for example, is a very good example. They've recently filed for an IPO. IPO means initial public offering. So this is the first time when the company is listed on the New York Stock Exchange to trade publicly by people. So Coinbase is an exchange where you can trade cryptocurrencies. So if the price of like crypto, if crypto is going up, then naturally it is directly related to the share price of companies like Coinbase. So Robinhood is already trading publicly on the NYSE. So if you can't afford to buy Bitcoin, invest in companies like Robinhood, invest in their shares. So you know that tomorrow when cryptocurrencies are booming, or it can be a part, or maybe it becomes a part of an economy, companies like Robinhood would be the first ones to hop into exchange, like the proper exchanges, transactions. Maybe like they could be something as valuable as PayPal in the future, where PayPal is dealing in currencies, but like later on, PayPal will also have cryptocurrencies for like you can take payments in crypto or whatever. But Robinhood might be like dealing in it like more in terms of like strongly excuse me, strongly. But yeah, I think like it's a good point to sort of jump onto another topic within Bitcoin, which is the transparency behind it, right? Because
Hmm.
you mentioned very clearly that when you're making a transaction to, let's say, anyone within this three people group right now, everyone gets a copy of that transaction in the group, right? And this is a very well debated, is debated a lot these days, which is that when right now today, if I send you 10,000 pounds or 100 pounds or whatever, there is between you and me, there is a governance in between, which is the bank, right?
Yep.
And they are sort of mediating the transaction. So if anything goes wrong, I know who I have to go up to, right, in
Yep.
that transaction. So I'll call the bank and I'll say, what's wrong in this transaction? With Bitcoin, right, although there is control, there is transparency, right, there is no governance, which is the reason why a lot of countries, for example, India, because they don't understand the underlying technology and because there is no
Hmm.
governance in the transaction, they have banned Bitcoin or banned trading Bitcoin, and
So
they have banned its usage within the country. So I personally think like I think personally this is one of the biggest drawbacks in something like Bitcoin, that even though it's transparent, right, there has to be certain amount of governance to reach up to in case the transaction fails, or in case the transaction doesn't go through, or in case there is an interception in the transaction in some form or the other.
So right. So actually it exists, right? What you're talking about, that exactly exists, right? And that governance is the blockchain essentially, right? And so the only difference is right now in the example you quoted, there is a central bank in the middle. There's this organization. In Bitcoin, this central authority, there is no central authority. It's decentralized to the level that everyone else in the network is that authority,
Yeah,
right? Everyone else. So which is why there can never essentially be a failed transaction, because the moment, let's say, a transaction fails, right,
yeah,
these 100 million other systems are going to tell you at that moment that, okay, this transaction has failed and this person has to have this much Bitcoin in their account, right?
yeah,
The problem, right, so the problem with the governance, right, is why the Indian government, and again, most governments are trying to just have this dance with Bitcoin, whether they're unsure whether to legalize it, not legalize it.
yeah,
Just as an example, right? 2017 or 2018, I think they banned
2018
cryptocurrency,
mid.
right? The RBI
2018
notice
mid.
came
Yeah.
out 5 days after Bitcoin hit 20K. Just last month, 5 days after that, all of the banks are again like, no, we're again now trading in Bitcoin again. So this is the inherent hypocrisy, and what it
yeah,
tells you, right? It's not for the concern of the retail investor. What it's a concern for is this alternate governance, right? So essentially, any government is only built up on money primarily,
hmm,
right? They have the power to allocate resources, which is why, and they obviously, in a democracy, they get that power from the people and whatever shenanigans, right? But they have the power to allocate resources and budget, right? With Bitcoin, you've given that power back to the people.
yeah,
And coming to your point, right, about the price of Bitcoin, right? So see, Bitcoin again, it's essentially your hedge against the real world and the real world stability. That's
yeah,
all it is, right? So, for example, right, let's say the Indian economy starts collapsing for whatever reason. It has happened in Greece, it has happened in Venezuela. So it's not unthinkable, right? Economies do collapse, right? What's happening in Syria, whatever, right? So let's say the Indian economy collapses, or let's say the Indian government suddenly decides, okay, to fight COVID, even we're going to print more and more INR, right? What
yeah,
will happen is, as the government prints more money, it's going to keep on losing its value. It's going to keep on devaluing. So that is the US dollar versus the INR pair we talk about, right? So right now, let's say it's at $70.
Hmm.
It's going to move up to $700, and that's how inflation works. So
Right.
what's going to happen is, essentially with Bitcoin, you can't do that, right? All of the money that you have, your property, everything is rendered worthless once things start going bad. But with Bitcoin, right, I can move in from India to, let's say, I can come to UK and I can trade in that Bitcoin again for, let's say, the pounds, right, without it losing its value. So
Yeah.
the Bitcoin is just your hedge against this real world uncertainty, right? It's all there is, right? And as a general rule, right, I would never recommend anyone to have all of your money in Bitcoin, right? All of your investments in Bitcoin,
Yeah.
because I mean that's just stupid, to be very honest, based on the fact that there are governments that are actively trying to fight Bitcoin. That's the only fundamental flaw with Bitcoin, is it's so good that it threatens the governments, right? It threatens the central banks, which is why there is this tussle, right? And so that's the point about transparency, right? It's fairly transparent, right? It's actually the most transparent system you can get, right? Bitcoin is the absolute epitome of transparency, to be very honest, right? Because again, there is no central authority, so it's completely transparent. But the real question on Bitcoin and crypto, right, the value is, will the governments and the central banks win this battle, or will the people and the community behind Bitcoin and just the underlying promise win this battle? Because here's also the fun fact, right? No matter what the Indian government decides, right? Let's say they say cryptocurrencies are banned, whatever. Technically, they can't really ban people investing and trading in Bitcoin, right? For example, if you still have one Bitcoin, there is nothing the Indian government can do to, let's say, stop you from sending that Bitcoin to someone else. That's the power of a decentralized network. What the government can do is, okay, it is not legal tender, meaning it will, if you give it to the RBI, we will not accept it as currency. For us, it's nothing. That is what the government has the power to. What it can also do is can tell the merchants, right? It can tell the merchants that, okay, if someone is trying to pay Bitcoin to, let's say, buy pizza, do not allow them to do that. So that's what they can do within the confines of their
No, 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 no. The Indian government can
governance.
actually start penalizing you for any capital gains on Bitcoin. For example, if it
Yeah.
stops companies like ZepPay to operate in India, ZepPay can still incorporate in, let's say, Singapore and still function, but it can literally stop people not just from trading, but from getting any capital gains also from banks. It can instruct the banks never to actually make money out of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so
And
exactly my point,
the
right?
thing is, everyone knows where the money is coming from because you can if not Bitcoin, even if Bitcoin is anonymous, you can identify the source who's sending that money to your account. Let's say I sell one Bitcoin right now. Government can identify through the banks, obviously, where that money is coming from and can start penalizing you. So even if
So
Bitcoin can't ban trading cryptocurrency, it can ban you making any profits out of cryptocurrency.
no, it cannot. Here's again my point. I'll tell you how. Exact scenario that you mentioned, right? Now
Hmm.
I'll give you the counter scenario that you don't need banks. That is the promise of Bitcoin itself,
No,
that
no,
you don't
that's the
even.
point. I know the Bitcoin works as a currency and people start using
No.
Bitcoin.
Exact
Yeah.
scenario you mentioned, wait. Exact scenario you mentioned, right? What I can do is, for example, I can go up to this person, let's say, right, another believer in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, right? And they believe in the value. Let's say this person can be based in Venezuela, US, UK, whatever, right? I can go to that
Yeah.
person locally, like, okay, this is my wallet address, this is your wallet address. I'll transfer X amount. Give me this item of value. Let's say, give me food, give me pizza, give me money in cash, whatever it is. I can trade that. And that is
No,
something no
exactly.
bank or government can ban.
You can use Bitcoin as literally a currency. I
Hmm.
understand that it's barter back to money,
Hmm.
but still, even if you cannot trade for hard paper money, even if you're taking cash, there's a limit to that. Banks can come to
Yeah.
know of
So
it, and there is no point and there is no saying when Bitcoin will actually become that currency because
Mm.
literally right now, Bitcoin is functioning as an asset, investment asset, not a currency.
100%.
Right now, let's say tomorrow, if the Indian government bans Bitcoin, cryptocurrency altogether, instructs the banks to never ever pay off anyone who's selling their Bitcoin, you're doomed.
So I'll tell you what.
But I get your point if Bitcoin, no, I get your point if Bitcoin gets to its original meant to be state where Bitcoin is a currency and we're actually buying off stuff using Bitcoin. I'm buying pizza of Bitcoin, you're trading Bitcoin for, let's say, any other thing. That can work, but that's very far off. And people are literally just right now investing in Bitcoin as an asset, right?
100%.
It's not a hard currency right
So
now
see,
in your hand.
Bitcoin right now is digital gold. As I said towards the start,
Exactly like digital
it's
gold,
digital gold, right?
but more volatile.
It's asset, right? It's digital gold, right? The only advantage is it's a lot more immutable. You can transfer it. You have to ship gold. You can transfer it. That are
Yeah,
advantages, but it's digital gold. The point of currency is not even relevant, right? Even if it doesn't attain the status of a currency, which I don't think it will, because on a technological perspective, the time required to do a Bitcoin transaction will always involve some amount of overhead because of the fact there are so many nodes in the system. So which is why even at scale, I don't think the currency scenario is where Bitcoin's real value is. It is in the digital investment and the asset class. Now, but coming to the scenario, the Indian government did exactly that in 2018. The scenario you mentioned, right? RBI came out with a notice, right, saying, banks, sorry, no crypto, no dealing with Zapid, nothing, right? Immediately, what started happening next year onwards, organizations like WazirX started coming in, which is just community driven. You don't need the bank. I could buy Bitcoin, I could sell Bitcoin, I could do anything, and do it on a cash by cash basis within my own network as well. And that is what WazirX is, for example, facilitating. So the thought behind Bitcoin is, as long as people believe. Same thing with gold. I mean, gold as a metal is absolutely worthless if you think about it. It's not even a fucking good conductor of electricity. Copper is more valuable than gold, right? Which is the primary purposes of metals. Gold, otherwise, it's just worthless. It's just
Yeah,
worth it in your mom's jewelry.
that's what I look for when I'm investing in any asset. Is it a good conductor of electricity?
No, but
Damn, gotta have some of that.
that's the thought. That's the value where metals are derived, either structural strength or electrical conductivity.
Yeah.
Gold has none of that. It's the most, it's one of the softest metals and everything. But the only reason is because people believe it's rare, and which is why they have value derived in the gold, right? That's how gold derives its value. That is all there is to gold. It's the same thing with Bitcoin, right? As long as there are people and there's a community behind it, of which there are 100 million already right now, right? Which is a sizable chunk. And now what's happening? Here's the big play that's coming, right, which most people aren't seeing. In this past 1 year, you look at the biggest hedge funds, you look at even the big banks, the Goldman Sachs and everyone, they have created their and started their own cryptocurrency and Bitcoin investment hedge funds. Imagine, these organizations 2 years back were calling Bitcoin a scam, were saying, it's going to nowhere, it's as good as a Ponzi scheme. Now they have a 500 million, $1 billion hedge funds within the organization just to invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. This is their hypocrisy coming out at
No,
play if you think about it.
it's not hypocrisy. I wouldn't call it hypocrisy, right? It's called diversifying your portfolio at the end of the day, right? Like
No,
even
but
if
what about in 2018? You are telling everyone that Bitcoin is a scam, never invest in Bitcoin, it's a Ponzi scheme, and now you guys are creating your own fund out of it.
yeah,
It is
I know
pure
how it looks.
capitalistic, and it's fair, right? I have no problem with it. You are a business. Every bank is a business. You are supposed to make money and profit for your shareholders. There's nothing wrong in that. But here's the point. What I'm trying to show here is just the trend of how they went from naysayers to now being a part of the community, and now these guys are actually pushing up the price, because as soon as they saw uncertainty in the real world, these guys know that the US government has just printed $4 trillion. It's going to play out in the next 2-3 years, right? Which is
Correct.
also why most people are like, oh, COVID is going to end, economy is going to bounce back. It's not. I really believe the other scenario is actually more plausible, because how governments have treated money in this scenario, they've just printed paper cash for nothing, and it has real world consequences which you're going to see for the next 2-3 years, right? And which is why these banks, right, what they are doing now is investing into crypto and hedging against the real world, right? And
Exactly.
it's fair, right? It's
Yeah.
fair, but this is what actually Bitcoin is becoming, is the digital asset class, digital
Yeah, I
gold
mean,
ultimately.
it's becoming more of a fear, and like Akshay said earlier, a FOMO. Everyone is in this FOMO right now, and
Hmm.
me personally, like I think, I mean, about in general, like sort of concluding the area of transparency within Bitcoin, right? I think it's a discussion that you have like world leaders and you have financial institutional leaders sort of discussing about it till date, right? But at the end of the day, like it's still a dilemma, and there's no like a substantial conclusion to it, because either people don't understand the underlying product, the underlying technology, or they just don't understand the fact that Bitcoin is, or like cryptocurrency is less of a currency and more of a commodity, and it sort of needs to be treated like that, right? But the next big question is sort of like, is it too late to invest, right? And me personally, like I mean, we've discussed it already, and I think, I personally would say, I haven't. I would say that if you haven't invested in Bitcoin right now or any cryptocurrency, and if you can't afford it, then instead, my personal point is to invest in companies that are in that sector. So buy their shares. Robinhood recently went public. Buy their shares. Coinbase is about to go public. Buy their shares. Um, I don't know, you have a bunch of other companies as well. I would say PayPal, if you can afford like their shares, buy their shares and everything, and just hold it for like the future and like wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, that's just my opinion about like how
I
you
don't think, by the way, there's an affordability problem
We
because there
start from
isn't.
5,000 now.
Yeah, yeah, because you can trade or you can buy cryptocurrency till 8 decimal places, right? So even if it's 24,000 USD, so till 8 decimal places, you can buy any amount of cryptocurrency. So that I
So
don't think
even
affordability.
$24 is fine.
Yeah, 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 easily, easily.
Yes,
That's the issue.
but then you think about the returns, right? So if for example, right, if I buy a portion of Bitcoin, right, I own a portion of Bitcoin, okay? Like I don't own a whole.
Yep.
Similarly, if I instead buy, my thinking is that if I buy, first of all, why I would say shares, right, is one, I save myself from the volatility in the market, right? Because Bitcoin is way more volatile than an equity. Second of all is I save myself from risking the fact that like the uncertainty about the whole Bitcoin situation, based on how long am I planning to hold. And the third thing why I would recommend that is that when I buy a share in a company, right, for the same amount, if I can buy a whole in Coinbase or I can buy a whole in Robinhood, I am a shareholder of that company. So tomorrow, when they sell out dividends, I get a share in those dividends. So I'm still earning as well. That's just my way of thinking, and
No, no, I see.
it
Ultimately, right.
depends on the
Every
risk tolerance.
Yeah, I mean, exactly every investment is just your risk appetite.
Yes,
As you
exactly.
said, equity is a lower threshold way to get into it, slightly lower risk and
Yeah,
slightly lower reward. And that's how capitalism works, right? Risk and reward. Very
correct.
simple, right?
Yeah,
With Bitcoin, though, right? With Bitcoin, here's my thesis, and I've put it on Instagram as well. In the next 12 to 18 months, I feel it's gonna jump up to somewhere around the 50K sort of mark, right? And then it's gonna again crash down, right? And but in the long term, right, if you're trying to trade Bitcoin for a short term, 6 months, a year, do not. Absolutely, the options that Shore has mentioned are much better for you. The only reason you invest in Bitcoin is be willing to completely willing to lose that money. Firstly, so invest only the amount you're completely okay if you lose. Secondly, you have to believe, okay, what's the underlying promise of Bitcoin, right? So right now, for example, you have the total amount of gold in the world, right? Some X trillion dollars. Now let's say I decide, and here's how actual price analysis done, right? Not the bullshit you get on the internet, but how actual the fundamental level works is, now let's say I feel that Bitcoin ultimately, after the 21 million in its scenario, will be just 0.1% of the total market of gold. It's going to be a digital gold and it's going to be a 0.1%. In that scenario, I divide it by 21 million and the price you arrive is roughly about 100K. So
yeah.
$100,000.
Hmm.
Now, if you say, okay, it's not going to be 0.1, it's going to be 1% of the total market cap of the entire gold that exists. Then it comes out to about a million. And if you feel that it's going to replace gold, it comes out to about 100 million per Bitcoin, right? So personally, my bet is on the 0.1 to 1 scenario. 0.1% to 1% scenario is the realistic sort of conservative bet I'm taking, and which is where I feel the Bitcoin price will be. But 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, here's the caveat that most people don't realize: it is a 5 year, 10 year long investment. Do not treat it as anything apart from that, right? Because what's going to happen is going to see it going up and down. As I said, even after the 50K mark that I predict, it's basically because of the institutions that have come in and the hedge funds that are going to come in. They're going to push up the price. It's
Yeah,
again going to come down crashing. If you can't hold your emotions, you're gonna buy at the peaks and sell at the lows. That's what you're going to do, right? If you're emotional about it. So which
that's
is why, look at it from a long term perspective, that I believe ultimately the price of Bitcoin will be 100K, which is why I personally am even comfortable in investing in the current price of, let's say, 24,000, 25,000 USD, right? I don't try too much to catch the peaks and call down the lows, because there's an entire industry trying to do it and they're failing at it for most of the times, right?
yeah.
So I genuinely don't believe I'm smart enough to sort of game the entire system and try and do that. I treat it as a retail investor, like you, let's say, treat property,
Yeah.
right? And I
Mhm.
believe the long term value is 100K to 1 million, and that's how I look at
No,
it.
but the problem with that is everyone knows any investment should be a long term thing. That's fine. but Bitcoin is so volatile. It's
Yeah.
very tough to be in the Bitcoin game for the long term.
100%, 100%.
So you gotta have that heart and you gotta have that patience if you're investing in Bitcoin for the long term. It's very volatile.
Yeah,
In
don't be
24 hours,
emotional.
in 24 hours it can halve or double. You never know. But
Yeah.
it's very volatile. You don't play the Bitcoin investment game if you're going to be emotional about it, or you're looking at a day-to-day trading. But
Yeah.
it's very, very volatile.
Yeah, I've had my investments in Bitcoin, right? Just to give everyone context, half and even go up till a third in a span of a month. And I've seen it double and triple in a span of a month.
Mm.
That's how it can be, right? So if the only ways you have to be unemotional about it. And the way I derive it is I have
Get
in my
about
head, I've made peace with the fact that I'm going to just lose this money.
it. So
And this is essentially the amount of money that I'm comfortable with losing. It's not going to affect me. And
there's a
that's
very
how.
nice video. I wanted to play this video. There's a very nice video on Bloomberg. Let me just quickly share my screen, and it kind of also highlights a little bit on the possible potential of Bitcoin, right? So this is the video. Let me just play it.
10x adoption, and that we've seen so many numbers thrown around. We had the CIO of Guggenheim, Scott Minerd, on Fed Day telling us that he thinks fundamentally Bitcoin should be about 400,000. Our guest the next day said, oh, it should be at 1 million. I mean, the numbers keep on going, but who's driving this at the moment? Is it institutional buyers that are driving the crescendo in prices? Is it retail? What do you think?
There's definitely a huge uptick in institutional adoption. I mean, we're seeing this across the headlines. And in comparison, you're not seeing the same uptick across retail. I mean, if you look across any major social indicators, retail awareness of this rally in 20.
Sorry, this is a good chart, right? I'll just quickly say, like, imagine the people coming in at this time, right? This is just like this is whole of 2020, right? People still came in, and look at what the rally has kind of looked
It's
like.
still relatively muted. Now, I think the tides will turn, and we're going to have both sides of the market kind of participate here. But really, I mean, we have to think about some of the developments here. With PayPal rolling out buy and sell capabilities to some 380 million users around the world, with giants like Facebook leaning in, and every major financial institution now embracing crypto, I mean, it's hard to see how we don't go from 100 million users currently to 1 billion over the next few years.
Oh, that's a call right there. But you talk about all these institutions, other large companies getting into this space. Has regulation caught up with that?
Yeah, so I mean, listen, regulation is always evolving. I mean, how many times over the past couple of years have we seen the headline of such and such government bans Bitcoin, only to reverse it a year later? So listen, regulators are definitely getting more comfortable with the space. I think they recognize that this is an innovation that is not going to be uninvented, and that Bitcoin is here to stay. And that really the story is probably going to be much broader than just Bitcoin here.
Right. Yeah. So I think that sort of summed up, what you were saying.
Yes, basically. It was
Retail sort of FOMO, right? And again, with the regulation, right? Again, so the potential risk of Bitcoin is the regulation aspect ultimately. So that's the risk you're taking, and the reward again is the growth they mentioned, right? 100 million to 1 billion users. And so essentially, just that change will sort of pivot the Bitcoin price, also go 10x, right? Let's say from 20K to 200K, right? It's very proportional, roughly speaking, to sort of the adoption that grows with it. PayPal, as they said, has rolled out. So that's 380 million people with the potential to sort of start trading Bitcoin. So, I mean, yeah, these things will happen. But again, for, I think, cryptocurrencies, the bottom line is look at it from a long-term perspective. If you're trying to trade, do not try to call the bottoms and sell at the top. You will definitely fail, right? Because again, there are a bunch of algorithmic computers trying to figure it out, and even they still don't do a good job at it. So treat it, if you're a believer in Bitcoin, if you feel that Bitcoin is not going to be a reality, please do not invest in Bitcoin, right? You have to understand the thesis. As a starter, just go and read the original 2008 Bitcoin white paper. Just understand what it's all about, right? See the history of money, how money has developed to where it is right now, ultimately, right? Because a large part of our evolution in civilization and us becoming a civilization was the invention of money, because money was the first time we decentralized trust, right? It's just decentralized trust. I can do this X work for you, put in my time and effort, and store it so that I can use it later. So it's all that there is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to sort of conclude the whole Bitcoin thing and sort of move on to the next part of today's podcast. But yeah, like just like a small little conclusion that yeah, Bitcoin long term investment, and don't try to long the bottoms and short the tops. And if you want to invest with less volatility, then invest in companies, in equities on their shares that work in the Bitcoin space or like crypto space. But yeah, the
Go
next
follow markets.
one,
Go follow markets with money for some trading advice
yes.
that are
Oh yeah. I'm gonna add that follow.
starting
Yeah, for the zero viewers who are watching right now, go follow Markets with Bunny.
ASAP.
Follow Markets Bunny on Instagram. And I
And then
made it.
unfollow it five
I
minutes later.
like how he had a pop up for it already. I mean, we
Oh,
hadn't
the
planned
I
this.
just
He had a pop
typed
up
it.
for
I
this.
just typed it out.
at
I
Big
just
Market.
typed it out. But Markets Bunny, go follow on Instagram. I do FX daily trades, and I post my positions, my FX positions in the morning before the market opens UK time. And I do an intraday positions, and then I finish the day, and I also post my day's earnings. So I do swing trades. So I'm completely transparent and blunt, like we all are here on this show. So okay.
Guys, go follow the healthy company. As long as we're promoting our own things, go follow the healthy company and then unfollow Markets Bunny.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Okay, coming on to the next thing, guys.
The next thing,
We've stretched this thing to what, like
Right?
50 minutes
Yeah,
already.
yeah, yeah. Next
Do we
thing.
want to do the next thing?
yeah, we
Do we-
want to do the next thing.
Okay, let's do the next thing.
We
Yeah,
are
for all the viewers who are watching right now, that's for you.
and we
So
want
yeah,
to test YouTube's algorithm of staying live. So let's continue with the next thing, which is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard feminism? Question mark?
so
How did-
just to
yeah.
give context, okay? So just to give context as to what's Johnny Heard and Johnny Depp and Amber, the scenario there, very simple, right? Two massive superstars got married, whatever. 2016, I think, was the first time there were rumblings of some divorce, trouble in marriage. Turns out, essentially, Amber Heard had sort of alleged that Johnny Depp was a wife beater, indulged in domestic violence, all of that jazz. Everyone sort of disowned. I like how Akshay just walked out at this moment, but yeah. So he's making green tea, but yeah. So alleged that Johnny Depp was a wife beater, engaged in domestic abuse. All of the community, the Instagram journalists and the Instagram sort of activists were hailing Amber Heard as this torchbearer of feminism and everything, which is fair. Turns out, actually, finally they settled everything. The settlement was that okay, no one's gonna publicly badmouth the other person, and there was no physical nature involved in the entire relationship. So she retracted at that point. Now in 2020, essentially, some tapes have come out, right? So these audio conversations got leaked, wherein, and we're going to show you a short glimpse of it, but wherein Amber Heard actually confessed to hitting Johnny Depp. So it was the other way around. So Amber Heard actually confessed to punching, hitting, etc. Johnny Depp, and actually she was the physically abusive one in the relationship. But Johnny Depp, for whatever reason, chose not to speak out against it at that time. But eventually, when it came up now, there was a case that was indirectly related to their marriage and that time already in the UK courts, right? It was being prosecuted there, and so here's sort of what happened. These conversations got leaked. Everyone was sure, okay, it's proven that this girl was lying. Johnny Depp was sort of being a gentleman, not sort of pointing it out, but he's in the right and she's in the wrong. But even post this, the judge, the verdict that came out was actually against Johnny Depp and in favor of Amber Heard, right? So there was this print media called The Sun. It's a publication in the UK, and they called Johnny
Tabloid,
Depp,
man. It's a sleazy tabloid.
yeah, whatever it is, right? And they called Johnny Depp a wife beater, and the judge upheld that in court. That yes, there's nothing problematic or wrong in that. And post this verdict, and this is given that everyone knows about these audio recordings. It was rage on the internet. Johnny Depp has been removed from Fantastical Beasts, the sequel. He has been chosen not to come back in Pirates of the Caribbean, a series he's spearheaded in sort of bringing in, right? And he's facing the brunt, and he's bearing the brunt of all of these of the entire court case, right? Even though the audio conversations are out. And before we talk about this, because again, I do
Why
have
don't you
strong
play the
yeah,
clip first? Let me just share it for you.
exactly. So, yeah, can you are you screen now?
Yeah, just go back. Yeah, I can see it. Just go back and full screen it.
Yeah. No, I'm just doing this meaty part, which is the 30 to 1 minute, 40 seconds to a minute part
Okay.
here.
Okay.
That's where she sort of confesses.
Come on, I don't care. I really could care less. It's you every single time. You latch onto some sort of thing when I already told you. I don't know what you're fucking talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. You still haven't even told me what it is. But run with it.
I have told you what it is.
No, you haven't.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
You told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just
And
happened.
I lied.
And then you punched me in the fucking thing, and you
You figured
in
it
the
out.
face, and you said, oh, fuck, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about? And I watched you lie, and then I
didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't
punch
hit you across the face in a proper spot, but I was hitting you. I'm not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, a lot of people have been around a long time. I know.
No, when you fucking have a closed fist.
Get punched. What hit? I'm not.
Just look at this sentence, though. I hit you. I did not punch you. But yeah.
Right, I think like this. But I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
Now, what am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your
I'm not
toes?
sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
That's the difference
you
between me
poor
and you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start
You're
physical
a
fights?
baby.
Because
Grow
you-
the fuck up.
Because you start
Julie.
physical fights?
I did start physical.
Yeah, you did, so I had to get the fuck out.
Yep.
Okay, so first of all, can I just say, like, actually ask, did it break your heart when she was like, when she like, like, it's Johnny Depp, man, like, what- like in my head, this guy has no problems in life, right?
I mean,
Right.
it's as real a person can get. I mean, whatever he does, right? He owns up to it in public, right? And even in this scenario, right? This is their
But I have
private
a question.
conversation.
Okay, just before we start discussing this video, right? What is the credibility of this video, and what is the guarantee that it is not doctored?
No. So, Amber Heard has accepted that yes, this is a legit audio conversation when it was presented in court by Depp's
Okay,
lawyers.
that's no. That,
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
wanted to make sure that the viewers know the credibility of this, and it's not just some
Yeah,
random content on YouTube. Okay, fine. Continue.
No. And can't you get that in the conversation? She's like, yes, I started physical fight. I hit you. I did not punch you. You are being a baby crying about domestic violence.
Yeah.
Wherein, back to 2016, she was the one who was doing it. And obviously, these tapes are pre-2016. So when, they were happily married and living together. So it's pre that. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's fucked up, right? Honestly, it's fucked up that this sort of happened, right? But
Yeah, I
and
mean-
yeah.
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
it's very well portrayed in a lot of movies already, right? But I mean, you see it in like today's day and age as well, and it's people are using relationships to sort of, have a leverage on a lot of other things, like for their individual interests, right? So
True.
like you see, like, if you go to a party and you see a 50-year-old walking into the party with a 23-year-old, you are immediately you have this like impression like, oh, gold digger,
Mhm. Sure. So, I mean, I tell you what. See, my problem isn't even with their relationship and what happened, right? I mean, that is their private conversation. To be very honest, that's the prerogative between the two of them, right? Even if there was domestic violence, even if Amber Heard sort of, hit Johnny Depp and everything. Obviously, it's wrong on, from a third person's perspective. But whatever it is, it's between them, right? I would rather not comment on that. My problem is with this entire demonization of Johnny Depp when Amber Heard just simply stated that he's a wife beater. There was no there was no recourse for Johnny Depp. He was the global sort of demon and the father figure of patriarchy and everything wrong with men overnight for no reason, right? No legitimacy, no authenticity. He wasn't given a fair chance to present his case,
Yeah.
essentially, right? That is I think the broader problem. That's with celebrities anyway. I feel of their lives in general are sort of over amplified, and they're given too much importance in general, especially movie stars, which is why, I mean, whatever happened. I'm not too concerned about either Johnny Depp or Amber Heard and whatever they're doing in their lives. But what this shows is a potential problem that exists in our society and is aggravating by the day, right? And this is the entire sort of, what we have done is we started from a good place, right? When the feminism movement started was, stop with victim blaming. Do not blame the victim. Now it's the other way. Now it's gone to the point wherein it's guilty until proven innocent if the potential or probable victim just says it happened. Right now it's gone to the other extreme of it, right? And this is a potential problem, right? For example, any girl's word in this in these sort of scenarios, right, it's just taken and over amplified by the entire barrage of fake feminists that sort of exist
Yeah.
on the internet. And you're just disenchanted with the entire system. And it's essentially guilty until proven innocent. This guy's life was just overturned in a single, and he was Johnny Depp. He was in a position of power. He had a massive fan following. And if something like this can happen to him, imagine sort of the cases we have in our day-to-day lives that we don't even know about. And that's the other scenario that's happening, right? No one is denying that women have not been marginalized historically in certain situations. So have men been marginalized in certain situations historically, right? No one's denying that on the either end, right? But now what's happening is you are suddenly having one person's word over the other person's word purely based on one variable, which is gender, and which is wrong, right?
It's wrong, but then
Sorry, because I just have a feeling we're going to start an internet war, and we're going to get on the wrong side of it for all
No.
the fake out there.
Okay, no, it's okay.
No, I mean, see, if the fake feminists sort of wanted to come on and have a rational debate, we wouldn't have this problem. So I mean that's the problem in itself, to be very honest.
Yeah, but the whole point here is that, like, like you mentioned about gender, right? And it's just it's quite given, right? Of a woman's opinion is always taken with a little more emotional intelligence compared to a man's opinion. It's just like you can't really fight these stereotypes that have been set over the years. That, if it's a job in the garden, the man is supposed to do it. It's a more manly job. It's just like things that are supposed to. Even though I don't agree with it, right? Like, I think if it's like, if it's just like holding this bottle, right? Any gender can be holding this bottle, right? But then a guy wearing a pink shirt, right? It's a bit more like, oh, like, what's up with this guy kind of thing, right? Like Akshay is wearing purple, right? So
Purple, fuck you with purple.
I'm not judging him.
Breaking gender stereotypes on Being Blunt, episode
Yes.
5.
Fucking, this is purple. This is not pink.
I
Why
know
do you have a problem with
I
it
don't
if
have a
it's
problem
pink?
with pink. I love
Okay,
pink.
I have three
I love
colors
wearing
in my
baby
wardrobe, right? The third most popular color in my wardrobe after black and white is pink.
I'm not
And
surprised.
yeah,
See?
but bro, I have pink shoes. But like, I just think like it's fine, right? So I think it's very important to break this gender stereotype. If you really want to achieve gender equality, you need to break the gender stereotype that you can have a woman who is going to the gym and has six pack abs. You can have a woman in this world who can do gardening. You can have a woman in this world who likes to do like bull riding. Or you can have a woman in this world who can, not be good at cooking or not be good at home things, but can lead a fucking organization like Indira Nui is doing for PepsiCo.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what. Here's my problem, right? What's commonly quoted, right, is all of the examples that you mentioned, they exist, right? And Indranui exists, right? And we're all much better off as a civilization, and we're all proud for it, right? Here's the problem. When all of these things do happen, right, it's never really acknowledged, and it's brushed under the rug as an exception, but not the norm, right? And here's my problem. I really don't feel it's an exception in that sense, right? I really feel that we're painting a dystopian picture for especially for all the young women growing up right now, that inherently the world is stacked against you, that men have it easier, etc., etc. And all of the men of the world are trying to just push women down, because that's not true. Historically, biologically, the only reason as a species is because men and women have loved each other, done their duties towards each other and have respected each other, right? And which is why feminism, when it started in the 60s and 70s, right, when it originally started, it was for equality in the truest sense, right? Equality of opportunity. So they wanted to vote, they wanted equal property rights, etc., etc. All of right reasons which are undebatable. No one should even have to think twice. They shouldn't have even had to fight for it. Problem is now what has shifted, right? From equality of opportunity, there is a certain section of proclaimed feminists, right? They aren't even real feminists, really. Proclaimed feminists who have changed the conversations from equality of opportunity to equality of outcome, right? And that's a problem. I'll tell you why, right? Let's just, I'll give you data around it. Look at what's happening in Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Norway, etc. Ideal countries, right? In the sense, men and they have systematically done changes that men and women are equal in all spheres, all everywhere, right? All opportunities. They really dive deep into the equality of opportunity, right? So they try to reduce wealth gap, the wage gap, everything, right? They've done that, and they've got it to a level fairly, in broad aspects, that it's you don't need feminism sort of there, right? So it's working there. You see the data around it. What's happened now is actually these Scandinavian countries have the widest gap in sort of wage gaps across all countries. Why do you think that is? Isn't that fascinating? You've equalized opportunities, but the outcomes are the most diverse out of all countries.
Yeah, at the same time, even in organizations, like you think about any big organization, right? So talking, because of the power of media, right? Now every organization wants to portray themselves culturally diverse. They want to portray themselves gender diversification, and they want to portray all of these things, right? And because of which, tomorrow, if you are if there is a pool of 10 people in an interview, right, and 3 of them are women and 7 of them are men, right, and they want to hire 2 people, even if there is a guy in the group who is way more deserving, way more qualified, way more I don't know, like way more appropriate for that job, they will still hire the first best guy and the first best woman from that woman group, because
they have quotas.
How they maintain gender ratio, right?
They have ratios.
Ratio, right? Yeah.
This is the exact difference between opportunity and outcome. By giving it a quota, a certain percentage, a ratio, what you have said is now the outcome is going to be, let's say, 60 men, 40 women, whatever ratios these guys have, right? You have already pre-decided the outcome, right? And that's not the way you go about it. You equalize the opportunity for everyone, right? So that is why I feel, that is where modern feminism is misguided. If you're true feminist and if you equalize everything, actually the wage gap will increase. If you think about it, right? The wage gap will increase, and the outcomes will be disproportionate. Women will over-index for certain sort of skill sets that are very, very natural and inborn to them. For example, the medical industry, right? You've seen how that is a higher inclination of women. Also the social sciences, right? Because women on general are more agreeable, right? Agreeable is empathy, honesty, and more caring, right? And men are more
disagreeable. I think men have that power as well. I think both of them had equal.
No, they do. It's ratios, yeah. It's variables ultimately, right? It's not like if you're agreeable, you're not disagreeable. It's a percentage. Men in general, and this is a population-wide trend. It's not an individual level. It's not like Shaurya versus Devansh versus a girl. It's on a population-wise level. Men are more disagreeable, which is why they over-index in STEM sort of fields, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math, right? Which is the trends that I've seen in the Nordic and the Scandinavian countries. What has happened where they've equalized opportunities. So which is why, what you should actually strive for is equality of opportunity, not outcome. And what actually, what people are fighting for on Instagram is equality of outcome. Just look at sort of the conversation. It's completely misdirected. Because here's my problem. You're doing a disservice to the original movement of feminism, because when you're talking about outcome, you're completely ignoring the equality of opportunity, right? You're completely ignoring the equality of opportunity.
Absolutely.
That 80% of a rural female workforce is unemployed. That is a problem around equality of opportunity. You can't solve it with wage gap. You can't solve it by saying, okay, Google will hire, let's say, 40% women, or any organization will hire 40% women from the urban class, right? You're solving for the wrong problem. That's positive outcome. You get the rural women up to the place where they can interview for Google and let the organization decide. For example, whoever is worth it will go, and who is not worth it will try for something else.
Yeah, this is such a like a borderline feminist topic that we are discussing, discussing right now. It's very controversial. It's borderline controversial what we are
Yeah,
discussing.
and
But it's right.
I'll tell you the inherent dichotomy here as well. For
Yeah.
example, we're talking about it, and everyone, all three of us are feeling a little restrained whether we don't put out a certain wrong word, we don't cross
Yeah,
a
I'm
line,
still just not saying anything.
which I probably already have, right? But we don't cross a line that, oh, there'll be this barrage of feminists and we'll be claimed this, patriarchal group of people talking. If there were a couple of women here, in the same podcast, and we discussed that if we should actually bring in a couple of our female friends to just, talk about this. And if there are a couple of female friends here, right? Suddenly it wouldn't be so problematic. We're talking about the exact same thing, the exact same content, the exact same information, but just because of the source, it will suddenly not be as problematic. Versus here, you think, oh, it's problematic, and this is what bias, prejudice, and preconceived notions play out,
See,
right?
I'll
And
tell
that's
you,
what is causing the problem.
I'll tell you what my outlook is when it comes to feminism, right? Or like gender equality. And I'm generalizing this not just for like within organizations and not just like in general with other opportunities, but I think women have thrived equally as men. Okay, you look at history, you have had women leaders, you have had men leaders. Okay, and both genders have thrived equally in the past. What I do agree to a certain extent is that the society has been very biased towards setting the boundaries for women, restricting them towards the household. However, because women have
Be
been
more
capable
specific
enough,
when you say that. What boundaries? Like, be more specific.
when I say what boundaries, I mean like staying in the household. Women should just cook. Women should just look after the kids because that's the duty of a woman, and the duty
Who
of a
has,
man
who
is
has
to
set
go out
those
and
boundaries?
earn. Huh?
Who has set those boundaries?
The is the society, us, the people,
Does,
the stereotypes being followed over the years.
what does society constitute of?
Um, us, gender, men and female. I know, but it's because
Right, right.
that's what I'm telling you. Let me get to my
The
point. My
narrative is
point
only
is,
men have done it. The
it,
narrative is wrong.
I know, but the point here is that it has been done it in the past, right?
Mhm.
And the reason is that it has been going on for a long time because there has been more followers than more people that rebel, right? But because of the people that rebel within that society, which has set the boundaries for them, and they have had followers, right? It is these people who have rebelled against these stereotypes, and these are the men and women that have thrived in this particular area together to be able to achieve a world where women are allowed to step outside, where women are sorry, let me edit my sentence, where women can step outside if they want to, not allowed. When I use the word allowed, it means that someone is giving them permission. They don't need any permission, they don't need any allowance. Okay, where
Bad
women
Bunny, all the feminazis, go for this guy.
Very
no.
blur.
So I think that's what the differentiating factor has been over the years, which has led us to a world today here where women don't have to ask a guy, or women don't have to ask anyone. And like I tell this to my sister, right? I have a younger sister, 4 years younger to me, and I tell her this. She calls me sometimes. She says, "Mom's not allowing me to do this," and I just said that like, look, you can ask mom because obviously you are her daughter. You can ask mom for guidance, right? But at the end of the day, you will do what you want to do irrespective, and you should do that. Okay, even if you make mistakes or whatever, you'll fall down, but you should get up. Okay, and I the way I am with my sister is that I never stop her from doing anything. I'd say that do whatever you want to do, because I think I can be that person who she can come up to and tell things, and then I can guide her. Whether she takes that guidance or not, that's up to her. But I can just guide her in some direction, whatever. And similarly, I think she helps me with that as well. Like with my ex girlfriend problems, she is so helpful. Believe me when I say this. So this is how I think symbiotically. That's why we have two genders, right? We have male and females, right? So they can symbiotically come together and sort of thrive together in the society and sort of push and drive the society forward. That's what's
And
important, right?
that's what always has happened, is my point, right? My point essentially is the exact relationship
On a
dynamic
small
that you
scale
established.
versus a large scale.
since we have, evolved, right? Since we have evolved, we have lived in tribes. Tribe had men and women primarily, right, depending on each other for different things. Men used to go out and hunt and get food, water, etc. Women used to take care, bear the brunt of, reproduction and do all of that, essentially, right? So that's what has always happened, right? They've taken care of each other,
Yeah.
essentially, right? That there was an equal opportunity for them to, be in service of the other person, and men have done a great job at it. So have women, right? Women possibly even more, because I mean, to bear the cost of the cost of bearing a child in your womb for 9 months, it's unimaginable, right? So probably even more.
Yeah.
But the point is, you've done an equal job. But the modern feminism narrative is it's not, and it's so bad picture that somehow men and women have been at war with each other since the beginning of time. Men have tried to sort of, push women down and this and that, and women have always had to fight for their right. That's just simply untrue. I mean, especially in a culture like the Indian culture, we've had equal number of female goddesses as we've had male gods, essentially, right? We've always, we begin our prayer by praying to the female goddess first, then sort of the male god, right? So
Guys,
culturally, yeah.
guys, if we have posters of us three in India saying looking for these three guys, please let me know. I will never ever put like step into in India ever again. Just saying. But I think this is a very healthy discussion. I think it needs to be heard, and I think
And you
This
shouldn't
is
be
where we draw the
afraid.
line. This
And
is where we draw the line.
exactly, we shouldn't have to draw the
But
line, is my point.
let's
No,
try
this is
to
the
let's try to roll back from broad feminism
No, no, but
onto
that's my point, right? We shouldn't have to draw the line. There should be open-end discussion without the threat of us being demonized, which is what happened to Johnny Depp. That was the original point.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
we, as three males here talking about feminism, are under the same threat potentially. And that's not the backbone of a functional society with healthy debate and free flow of ideas,
Yes,
right?
I agree, and we are leading up to that sort of a society. But if we
We're
apply,
not.
the discussion, no, we are eventually. We can't
No, it's
decide
getting
the
worse
pace.
is my problem. It's actually getting worse.
Uh,
This thing happened last month, yeah. So the Amber Heard ruling came out last month, and this is a
I
judge in a
know,
position of power who's educated, right?
I
Who's
know.
educated and who's making this call.
I agree. I agree completely. I completely agree to this. Okay, but at the same time, there are also cases that if
Just a second. Shout out to Vedang Bhardwaj. He just commented saying, "Tag Emma Watson later, lol. We are going to do that." For
okay, so just coming rolling back to my point, right? So it's okay, we have this is one of the cases, right? Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, but then there are other cases as well where ruling has been impartial by the Supreme Court, or by by the law of justice in whichever country, or whichever geographical location you are at, right? So I think it's just very
actually wrong there.
it's just very important to remember that there is a small scale, there's a large scale in everything, right? So there's a
It's a large scale problem. So
I
that's
know
my.
I can understand it's a large scale problem, but I'm just trying to
I'll tell you what. No. So I'll tell you why things are even worse. You might not be aware of this ruling right now. For example, a female can allege any XYZ thing on a man, and without any trial, any investigation, the man is pronounced guilty and
I know I
is
have heard in India.
jail first.
In
Is in
India.
jail first, and until he's proven innocent, right?
In
Maybe you
India.
can counter me, but until you're proven innocent, you're actually guilty. That goes against the basic definition of innocent until proven guilty, which was the backbone of any sound and
I know.
human legal
I
system.
know, I know, but this is in India, specifically where you guys live, which is New Delhi, which is also known as the rape capital of the world.
Right.
Think about it again.
Firstly, right?
Coming
No,
back,
okay.
this is the same
No, no, no,
contradiction. This is
no,
the
no,
same
no, 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 no.
contradiction to what you
It-
said: small scale,
No,
large
it's
scale.
actually wrong. You cannot call Delhi the rape capital of the world. If you see on a per capita basis, actually, not denying, right? Delhi is very unsafe at nights, right? I know, like, for example, I have cousin sisters too, right? I genuinely feel concerned, and I shouldn't have to, as a brother. If my sister's going out, they should feel as comfortable as I do going out in the night. That's 100% true, and that is no, I mean, that's not even a point for up for debate, right? That's just basic common sense. You shouldn't have to think twice about it. But you shouldn't call Delhi the rape capital of the world simply because look at the data on a per capita basis. Delhi actually ranks a lot lower than the whole of United States, the whole of UK, and a lot of Europe. Just by the way, a lot of Northern Africa, a lot of Middle Eastern. So I mean, again, this is also my problem with demonization of a certain culture, which is the Delhi culture. Yeah, you can Google it right now. On a per capita basis, the number of rapes per on a per capita basis, Delhi is actually one of the lowest ones. Your entire geography, you look at New York, for example, the best cities in the United States, right? The top cities per se, quote unquote, Manhattan, San Francisco, they actually have higher.
It's actually Congo.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know the fact. It's actually Congo.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Democratic
That's what I'm
Republic of
saying, right? So
Congo is
Delhi shouldn't Delhi.
rape
So
capital of the world.
which is also why we should stop propagating and supporting this idea that Delhi is the rape capital of the world, because the picture I paint for my city, which is New Delhi, is what's getting communicated internationally, and I have a big problem with that.
So
I have a
obviously,
big problem, for example, when tourists say, for example, that we had heard this about Delhi, and that's why we were apprehensive of coming to New Delhi, but coming here and seeing you guys, it's a different story. So
no,
which
I
is why
know, but it's not like
it's very important to sort of paint the right picture in as
the
well.
way
Hold
the
on,
way media.
we can do 10x better job than we're doing currently, but that does not change the fact that on a very factual, logical level, it shouldn't ever be called the rape capital of the world.
I know the way the media portrays New Delhi as a rape capital
That's
is a bit demeaning. I understand. It's a bit demeaning because according to them, it kind of the way they portray it, it means it kind of implies that like every minute of the time, like there is one woman which is unsafe in Delhi, right? And
And it's
that's fine. But
it's
I think
true.
we're kind of
It's a
diverging
reality.
from the actual topic of discussion. So let's just let's not go into the rape area and like go deep into feminism, but just try to apply what we've just discussed into the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation, right? Because I personally like I think this can be sort of like a last parting thoughts before we end this extremely
Petition
long,
to reinstate
extremely long and
Johnny Depp in
extensive
Pirates of the
podcast.
Caribbean. Petition to reinstate Johnny Depp in Fantastic Beasts, the
Fantastic
sequel,
Beasts, yeah.
right? And petition that here's my problem now. All of the people, right, who demonize Johnny Depp, they cost him 4 years of his life, potentially more, all of the future, right? His reputation is tainted forever. What is the consequence of on those people who are sharing these Instagram stories without knowing and fact checking, right? So the moment I showed you the audio, right, you had that sensibility in you. Let's fact check this. What is the source? These people have no
Should we
consideration.
play that
What
audio again? I think we have a couple viewers. Should you want to play that audio again?
what the Amber Heard? I think they can just rewind and watch it. To be very
Okay,
honest,
fine,
it's
fine,
basically
fine.
just Amber Heard confessing that yes, I hit you, I punched you, and apparently I hit you, but I did not punch you, and yes, I did start all of our physical encounters. It's essentially
You
that.
can put all those links in the bio when we post it later.
Yeah. I'll put all the video links in the bio. But yeah, I think we
Last
hope
week,
we
intense
hope.
discussion today. I just realized.
Yeah,
Just
this is
let
a very, very long and extensive podcast by now, but I think this was such a I really enjoyed like being the whole live scenario, and I think later on I'll go back onto our Instagram and I'll ask all our followers what they
to
feel
tag
about.
Emma Watson.
I
Guys, tag
will-
Emma Watson.
Okay,
Tag Emma.
Vidang, we will definitely tag Emma Watson. But I think this was a very nice, healthy discussion. I think the first topic, which was the future of crypto and Bitcoin, was very, insightful, and the second one was very intense and borderline controversial, where Akshay did not speak a single word because he didn't want to get into trouble.
Emma Watson's again such a cutie though, right? So I mean that's that. I mean I
Okay,
love her.
let's stop with this crushing and this try to end this podcast. But yeah, I would like to like just say that like I think um I hope Johnny Depp and the whole situation over there sort of calms down, and like he I think it's more about his public image, and that doesn't get
Yeah,
demonized.
I mean, just think, yeah, just think before demonizing anyone. I mean,
Yeah,
just wait for the entire story. I mean, as
yeah,
humans, we shouldn't have to rant on this. It's basic common sense. It's human decency.
I
Just
know.
listen to both sides of the story.
Only,
God.
only, only us three are allowed to demonize each other within this podcast.
Demonize each other.
No one else.
We're actually going to
Awesome, guys.
I
This
didn't.
has
I
been
didn't
good.
think this Akshay went too safe. He was too safe.
It's
But
okay.
all we that I represented here are mine and Akshay's cumulatively.
No,
So
guys,
Any-
no.
and
Anyways,
Shaurya,
of course. Thank you. Akshay was very tired as well, so I'll give him that. But awesome, guys. This was so cool. Please, everyone, please follow us on Instagram for continuous updates. Don't forget to follow Markets Bunny for daily FX insights. But yeah, definitely follow the Being Blunt podcast.
and guys, do not take things out of context. It's really that was the point of this entire discussion. If you're gonna listen and try and debate with anything that we have said, listen to the entire piece, listen to the entire argument, the inference, everything, right? Please just don't take things out of context, or it's just going to be like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard all over again. And it's genuinely sad. It genuinely made me sad. That's how I was really passionate about it. You've just destroyed a guy's life for no rhyme or reason.
I have finished this whole bottle of water. Okay, I really need to pee. Can we please end this podcast? Okay, please try and understand my situation.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment. We will tag Emma Watson, or you can, and we can be try and get her attention onto this podcast. But until then,
I love Emma Watson. No hate towards Emma Watson, though. I love her.
okay, bro. Okay, we all love Emma Watson. Okay, I'll go binge on Harry Potter. Toodles, everybody.
See you guys.
See you.